The Dominion of Canada wasn't born out of revolution or a sweeping outburst of nationalism. Rather, it was created in a series of conferences and orderly negotiations, culminating in the terms of Confederation on July 1, 1867. The union of the British North American colonies of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and the province of Canada was the first step in a slow but steady nation-building exercise that would come to encompass other territories and eventually fulfill the dream of a country, a mare usque ad mare, from sea to sea. By the 1860s, the union of British North America had been a long, simmering idea. It was fueled in part by fears of United States domination and even annexation following the American Civil War, and the belief that Britain was becoming increasingly reluctant to defend its North American colonies against possible U.S. aggression. Confederation would offer the colonies strength through unity. Confederation had become a serious question in the province of Canada by 1864. In the Atlantic colonies, however, a great deal of pressure would still be necessary to convert romantic ideas of a single northern nation spanning the continent into political reality. Nova Scotia and New Brunswick had some interest in reuniting as a single colony following their division in 1784. As the province of Canada grew more prosperous and developed politically, socially, and industrially, so grew its internal rivalries, and the job of governing Canada West Ontario and Canada East Quebec from a single fractious legislature became difficult. Confederation, which would include division of the two Canadas, was posed as a solution to these problems. In 1864, after four short-lived governments had fought to stay in power, a coalition was formed promising union with the Atlantic colonies. With support from three of the province of Canada's four major political groups, the coalition gave Confederation a driving force that it never lost. The Alliance of Canada West's two principal groups, led by John A. Macdonald from the Conservatives and George Brown from the Cleargrits, meant that Confederation proceeded with support from British North America's most populous region. In Canada East, although Confederation was opposed by A. Dorian's Parti Rouge, it was supported by the dominant political group, the Conservatives under Georges Etienne Cartier. By 1867, they had the necessary support of the Catholic Church. Confederation was justified in public by the arguments that French Canadians would get back their provincial identity and their capital would once more be Quebec. The Canadians sailed to the Charlottetown Conference on 29th of August, 1864. The conference was already underway, and discussions for maritime union were not making much progress, so the Canadians were invited to submit their own proposals for a union of all the British North American colonies. The idea swept the board, and the glittering idea of a united country took over. A month later, the colonies called a second meeting to discuss Confederation. At the Quebec Conference, the delegates passed 72 resolutions, which explicitly laid out the fundamental decisions made at Charlottetown, including a constitutional framework for a new country. The Canadian resolutions outlined the concept of federalism, with powers and responsibilities strictly divided between the provinces and the federal government. Cartier pushed hard for provincial powers and rights, while Macdonald, keen to avoid the mistakes that had led to the U.S. Civil War, advocated for a strong central government. Between these two ideas, a semblance of balance was reached. The resolutions also outlined the shape of a national parliament with an elected House of Commons based on representation by population, and an appointed Senate whose seats would be equally split between the three regions, Canada West, Canada East, and the Atlantic colonies, for the purpose of providing each region with equal voice in the appointed chamber. So the view from London. Worried about the cost of defending Britain's North American colonies against potential U.S. aggression, British Colonial Secretary Edward Cardwell was a strong supporter of Confederation. He instructed his governors of North America in the strongest language possible to promote the idea, which they did. The London Conference from December 1866 to February 1867 was the final stage of translating the 72 resolutions of 1864 into legislation. The result was the British North America Act of 1867, now called the Constitution Act of 1867, which passed through the British Parliament and was signed by Queen Victoria on the 29th of March, 1867. It was proclaimed into law on July 1st, 1867.
Created using Powtoon.